If you're invisible to the federal buyer, how can they buy from you? They can't, right? They won't buy from you. You need to make yourself visible to these buyers and teammates in order for them to come to you. And this goes way beyond anything you can do proactively, like picking up the phone or going to events, right? That only touches a tiny fraction of the buyers that are out there. There are hundreds of thousands of people responsible for buying products and services like yours in federal agencies and in industry partners, right? DoD alone has over 180,000 people in acquisition-related jobs. You need to make it easy for them to find you when they want to go buy from a company or they're looking for a company like yours. When they do this, it's just called market research. They're building a short list of sellers, right? Sellers like you. And it's not about being at the top of the list. It's about even being on that list at all. You just want to get on that list. But if you're invisible, that's not going to happen. The 3 key points you want to keep in mind about being visible to federal buyers and teammates is to be findable, be attractive, and to be engaged. And I'm going to expand on those 3 topics today: being findable, being attractive, and being engaged. If you want buyers to find you, put be visible into the chat, because that's what it's going to take. You need to be visible in order for buyers to buy from you. So put be visible in the chat. Let me know that you understand the purpose of today's training. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I want to welcome you to my federal sales training. It's where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. Before we get started, do me a favor, help buyers remember who you are. Put your company name and your core competency into the chat. 2 or 3 words is sufficient, and it helps buyers, me, and others in the community really begin to remember who you are. Finally, I want to say thank you to sustaining members of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. We're not funded by the government. We're not funded by large prime contractors. We're self-funded. We're funded by you, and we're funded by me, and we make these trainings available to all small businesses. So on their behalf, I just want to say thank you to the sustaining members. Okay, I got a lot I wanted to talk about today on being visible in 2023. One of the key points that you need to pay attention to when you want to be visible in the federal market is you need to be findable, right? You need to, when somebody is trying to find you, they need to be able to find you, right? That's what I call being findable. It means that if they want to find you, they're going to find you. But so many of us are so invisible that when somebody is trying to find us, they can't. It's virtually impossible for them to find us unless they actually knew who we were, right? And you need to be able to come up. And so let's talk about being where the buyers look. This is the first step of being findable. You need to know where federal buyers and teammates, but in particular, federal buyers are looking when they're doing market research, et cetera. Where are they looking? And I want to walk you through 5 of the top places that I want you to keep in mind, and for you to go update these to make sure you are findable in each one of them. So the first place that buyers go look when they're thinking about doing market research, the first place a buyer might look are at past responders, people who have responded to past RFIs or past sources sought notices or past RFPs, right? RFIs, requests for information. That's about the government looking for engagement with industry around the requirements. They're trying to have discussions. So if you have responded to a past RFI in particular, then your RFI response has gone to multiple people, right? You have gone to small business specialists. If you copy them on the response, certainly the contracting staff, and certainly to the program staff who's asking for that engagement with industry with an RFI. The other notice is called a sources sought notice, and this is theoretically used for just trying to find out if there's businesses out there like yours that could and would respond to an opportunity or requirement that the government puts out. So they might be looking to see if there's women-owned small businesses that'd be interested in cyber work, for example. So they'll put a sources sought notice out. It doesn't require as much of a response, but it is a response that you'll be sending back. And then an RFP is an RFP, right? Request for proposal. When you respond back, this is a big deal, right? And you're letting the government know who you are. The idea of this, though, is the government looks at that list first because they can trust that if you responded to a previous RFI, sources sought, or RFP, they can expect that you will probably respond to them again. And that's really important to be paying attention to. The second place that the government goes and looks, market researcher, right, where you want to be is in their hard drive. And this is where they store your capability statement. Say you go to an event or a matchmaking event, a matchmaking session, or you have a meeting with them, or you just send in an email with your capability statement. When they get a copy of your capability statement, electronic, they'll put it into a hard drive somewhere, right? Some places they'll just put it into their own hard drive, which is almost always a network drive, even if it's personal, or they'll put it into a broader small business hard drive or onto the enterprise. And so, if you learn about how enterprises, which an agency is, enterprise search is done, when they put it out there, if somebody is searching, they might look in and find you. So if a particular market researcher is looking, they're going to look into their hard drive and say, hey, let me search the thousands of capability statements I have for small businesses that I've talked to over the last couple of years to see if any might fit the need that I have. And the really important thing I want you to remember is that part of being findable is making sure you update your capability statement with metadata, right? Go watch a whole separate video I did on this, on updating metadata on a capability statement, because when you do that, you will rise above your competitors. You will be much more findable. The government is not looking for everybody who can sell them what they need. The government is not even looking for the best. They're looking for the best of the ones they find that are enough, if that makes sense, right? You're not going to find 1,000 plumbers if you're looking for a plumber. You're looking for, the first 10 that make you feel good, and then you'll bring them in and ask for bids. Well, the government is kind of like that, right? They're not looking for a ton of people. So the first place is past responders. Second place is hard drive. Third place is supplier portal. So inside of many agencies, you'll find that they have a supplier portal. This is where you register your company saying you have an interest in working with them. HHS, Health and Human Services, has a really fantastic, thorough portal on their website. And if you go in there and register, you'll notice that you are now in the HHS's supplier portal. Unfortunately, if you go in there and look, there's very minimal participation. And so perhaps your company is not even visible to HHS. Or what is your target agency, right? Are you visible on their portals? If you go to HHS as an example, there's 9,000 certified, SBA certified women-owned small businesses in DSBS. So there's basically 9,000 women-owned small businesses. There's only 2,000 of them in HHS who have self-registered saying, hey, HHS, I'm interested. Does that mean 7,000 are not interested? For me, it feels more like 7,000 aren't even aware of the supplier portal. And so make sure you're in the supplier portal of the agency you want to go after, or the teammate that you want to go after, especially if it's a large prime. Go to our website, and you can see the website right there on the bottom of my picture. There is www.govconchamber.com. You can go in there, and we have an ebook called the Federal Directory of Supplier Portals. And this is where you can find agency supplier portals and large prime supplier portals. Link to get into it, so it makes it really fast for you. But just go download that. The next one, where the buyers look when they start coming out of their own agency tools, they go to the Dynamic Small Business Search tool. This is an overall tool for the federal government. Combined with SAM, it makes your small business profile. And this is where the government is told, the acquisition personnel, market researchers, they're told to go look at the Dynamic Small Business Search. If you look at how the government trains its buyers, they tell them, go look at tools such as the Dynamic Small Business Search. So that is their number one market research tool across the entire federal government. So make sure you're in there and you're highly visible. And I'll talk about like how to increase your visibility in there. But the last place is your LinkedIn profile and your company page. So where buyers might look, especially large primes, because these people use social media more, they might go look for a company like yours that does risk management framework or elevator services, et cetera. They might go into LinkedIn and do some searching in there. I'm looking for a hub zone that does elevators, for example, and your profile might come up. And so you want to be in LinkedIn with a personal profile that is screaming what you do. And then you also want to have a company page, and you can learn more about this inside of LinkedIn, or you go to other training I have on it. But you can get these two in there, and now you're visible where the buyer is looking. The buyer is looking at past responders, so respond to RFPs, RFIs, and sources sought. They're looking for inside their own network drive, so send them a capability statement. Make sure the people you want to have your capability statement do have your capability statement. The third place is supplier portals, fourth place is DSBS, and the fifth one is being on LinkedIn. So when you're doing that, the last tip I want to give you about being findable is to make sure you know and are using your top 10 keywords. And your top 10 keywords it's a pretty straightforward thing, right? If somebody was going to search for your company, what would be the first word that you would want them to find? So if I use SharePoint, that was my last company. If I use that as an example, first word I'd want to be found on is SharePoint. So SharePoint is right there. That's one keyword. Another keyword might be SharePoint migration. And I know I'm using that same word, but it's kind of you can use a couple of words to be a keyword. But SharePoint migrations are a really big part of what we did. SharePoint development, I might put in AvePoint because I was a big third-party developer. I might put in business process improvement, right? As I start working through those keywords, I'm looking for, if they search, I want to come up on the list. Remember what I said is if they can't find you, you're not even going to get on the list, let alone be at the top of the list. And so I'm just trying to get on the list and I need to know my 10 keywords. What are your keywords, right? That's why I say at the beginning of every training I do, put your 2 or 3 top keywords into the chat so that people know. But partly I'm doing that so you know, so that you're getting better at being able to say, this is what we want to be found as, right? We want to be findable. And these 3 to 10 keywords are the way we do that. And when I talk about keywords, by the way, keep them related. Don't do 10 random things. You want them to be 10 different ways of talking about cybersecurity or 10 different ways of talking about elevator service. Let me know that you see how important it is to be findable by putting be findable in the chat. Put that in the chat, be findable. If you understand that this is fundamental, the fundamental first step to being visible to the buyers is being findable. The second key point I want you to pay attention to about being visible in 2023 to federal buyers and to teammates is you need to be attractive, right? And this means your company needs to be attractive. Your capability statement needs to be attractive. Your LinkedIn profile needs to be attractive. Your DSBS profile needs to be attractive. And what attractive means is that, and that I guess the first way I would say it is it matches search intent. If the federal buyer or market researcher is searching on one of those 10 keywords, for example, when they show up, your company profile, your narrative, your capability statement, when they look at that, it instantly is matching their search intent. For example, if they search for a SharePoint company and they find a result that comes up and they say, we do elevators and cybersecurity and all this stuff, and sometimes we do reporting on SharePoint. Like we report on our elevator or cybersecurity activities on SharePoint. We haven't matched the intent, right? You would match the intent if they search for cyber and you showed up, right? And so you want to make sure you're matching the search intent. That makes your company attractive. If I go into DSBS, for example, and I search on a keyword and I get 10 companies coming up, 7 out of 10 of them are not companies that do the work that I just searched on. For example, if I search on cyber, many companies will come back and say that they do, they'll have the word cybersecurity in there, but they'll talk about software development and project management, program management, and administrative services and help desk. Well, that's not a cybersecurity firm, right? That's a staffing firm that just focuses in these areas. Compared to if I search on cyber, I have multiple customers where their profiles will come up and every single sentence will scream, we are a cybersecurity subject matter expert. That is matching the search intent. It doesn't mean they get a contract. It doesn't mean they get to the top of the list. What it means is that they get pulled out and put on a short list, and now they get a chance to keep moving forward, right? That sales is about little bitty steps forward, and matching search intent is a huge part of that. The next thing to be attractive is, and this is how you can actually help match the search intent, is make sure your company's core competencies, what you're communicating to your customer, is that you have a clear and focused offer. We say that the niches are in the riches, right? No, the riches are in the niches. And when the niches are in the riches, why do I keep saying that? That's really weird. The riches are in the niches, and niches is just a clear, focused offer. It means I'm not selling everything. I'm selling something specific that our company is really, really great at. We have experience. Our people are experienced at it. Our people get certified. Their professional development every year is around this topic, whether it's cloud security or road construction, elevator services, SharePoint. It doesn't matter what it is, but when you can bring it down to a clear, focused offer, it makes it makes your company so much more attractive to the buyer when they're doing market research, because that's who they're looking for, right? They're looking for experts. If they just wanted generalists, they could just go with somebody inside the agency already who goes, oh, I know SharePoint. I turned it on once. Well, that's not an expert, right? But that's what it is when your company does everything. No one wants you to do everything. They want you to do one thing really, really well. And that's having a clear and focused offer. And the last thing I want to talk about is relates to being attractive to the buyer, your company being attractive. And a way that you can do that is so you can have a clear, focused offer. And then another way to be attractive is to speak in the customer's language. This is not that hard when you realize that you're just regurgitating back to them their words that describe what you do. So if I say that I do data security or data services, right? Data analytics, data reporting, big data, whatever it is, then if I take the time to read a document like one I posted today on LinkedIn in my profile, I posted the Department of Labor's data strategy for 2023 through 2027, I think. So it's their next 4 years data strategy. Well, when I look in and I look at their strategic goals, what they're trying to do, my job is to align what I want to sell in the terms that they're using in their own strategy documents, because internally, this is what they say, right? And so I want to go along with that. I'll give you a quick example. Right now, there's this thing called DevSecOps. It stands for Development, Security, and Operations. And DevSecOps is going through this transition on the commercial side, where now people are starting to say security is so important, that middle piece, we should call it SecDevOps. And I've had some customers trying to change the term, say, hey, we're going to start calling it this. And I advise them, sure, you can go ahead and do that. But when you go to the federal government, who all calls it DevSecOps still, including senior CIOs, when they still call it DevSecOps, then you are going to look uninformed. They're going to look at you and go, I don't know what those guys got. They're mixing it all up because they're not aware of that cutting edge name change that a few people in industry are doing. The government is not where you want to be, or excuse me, in marketing, you don't want to be bleeding edge. When you talk to the customer, you can talk to them about, hey, this whole new direction, we're going to put security at the front of DevOps. Well, that makes sense when you get in and have a conversation, but your marketing tools, your marketing language, if it matches the government, it makes you more attractive. If it goes against how the government is communicating, well, they don't want to feel dumb, so they'll just look at you as if you're dumb, and now you're not attractive. And I don't mean dumb, but put it whatever word you want in there. The idea is you want to speak the buyer's language, not force them to speak your language. And then you'll be attractive. So let me know if you get how searching works and how you want to match the intent of that searcher, the search intent, and that'll help you be attractive to federal buyers. Put be attractive into the chat if you understand that whole concept there that I'm talking about. Okay, so the third point and the final point that I want to talk about as it relates to being visible in 2023 to federal buyers and teammates is being engaged. You must be engaged. And what this means is just getting out there, letting the government know that you exist, letting your buyers, whether it's the agencies or teammates, letting them know that you exist. And the way you do that is being engaged. It's not just with meetings, right? It's not just going at events, but it's about getting out there and showing your interest in doing this type of work, and then showing that interest to the people you want to work with. So for example, the Army, if you're trying to sell the Army, getting out there and responding, for example, let's take that as the first tip. And I got 3 main ones for being engaged. The first one is responding to those RFIs and sources sought and RFPs that I mentioned earlier. You want to respond to these. I tell people that you need to respond to 4 RFPs a month. That's not hard to do once you got a lot of systems in place. You don't have to be the prime contractor on all of them, or really any of them. You could do all subcontract if you wanted. But the idea is to make sure you're in a team as a prime or a sub who's responding 4 times a month. And that could be 4 different company teammates that you're doing this. But when you respond, you're getting visibility. But as a prime, for sure, you want to be responding to sources sought and to RFIs that are in the agency you're trying to target. When you do this, when you respond, you're automatically getting visibility with focus as a receptivity, focus as a dissatisfaction, and focus as a power. You can go watch a separate training. I've done that on who these 3 people are. But fundamentally, focus as a receptivity are like the small business professionals in an agency. Focus as a dissatisfaction are those program office personnel you're trying to reach. And focus as a power are the contracting, the acquisition personnel. When you respond to an RFI or sources sought or even an RFP, those people are all seeing your company's name. They're seeing how you communicate your approach to something. Even if they don't bring you in now, you're now on their radar. So they've learned of you and you've got in and you basically have done a sales pitch through paper to them. But you're also in that list of, hey, next time we talk to somebody, we should consider company A because they responded to us. It also, this response that you do, it communicates your commitment to that agency. If you're responding to a sources sought or multiple sources sought over the course of a year or 2 years, if you're responding to RFIs, sources sought, and RFPs that are in your swim lane or have components of your swim lane, your core competency, then the government is going to see your commitment. When you're reaching out to teammates related to what you do, they're going to see your commitment to working with them, whether it's the agency or the teammate. By responding, you're going to show your commitment to those folks. I want you to keep in mind this idea of difference between marketing assets, which I want to talk about in 1 second, and then social selling. But marketing assets, these are things like your DSBS profile, your capability statement, capability briefing deck, LinkedIn, and your website, right? 6 marketing assets that I tell people you should have. These are passive marketing tools or a passive approach to marketing. They're reactive to a degree, right? So if you have a meeting and you send it to somebody, you're reacting to it. If they come to your website and they download it, right? That's a passive approach to selling or marketing to them. It's a passive approach to getting your capability statement in their hands. It's a passive approach to marketing, I say, because you're really not doing anything on purpose. It's just sitting there, right? Which is fine. You need both passive and active marketing, passive and active selling that's out there. I talked early at the introduction to this training today that there's hundreds of thousands of buyer representatives in the government and teaming partners, right? One large company that I worked with or was engaged with, they said they had 14,000 buyer personnel, right? They had a ton of employees, right? Doing 5, 10, $20 billion a year. It's not hard to have that many, but the 14,000 people engaged in buying, whether it's capture managers, business developers, program managers, people working with the customer, looking for folks like you, et cetera. And so there's tons of buyers out there, and you need this, you need the marketing assets to be out there so that when they go look, they can find you. When you go look, you're only going to be able to touch like 1% of them. If you go knocking on a door, right? If you pick up the phone and call, 1% or less in your entire career will you be able to reach. And so you need a way to reach the other 99%. Marketing assets that are passive is one great way, but another great way to be engaged out there, and this is really the best way from second only to responding to an RFP, right, is being engaged in doing social selling, right? Social selling is this idea of using social media. And frankly, I just narrowed all the way down to LinkedIn. But this is a dynamic approach. If the marketing assets that sit on your website is a passive approach, this is an active or a dynamic approach where you get engaged on LinkedIn. I told you, you need to have a profile and a company page profile so that they're passively communicating who you are. If people land there, they can learn a little bit about you. That's a passive way of using your LinkedIn profile. But if you go into social selling, that means actually going into LinkedIn and being engaged on LinkedIn. There's 2 main ways you can be engaged on LinkedIn. You can engage on other people's content. If you see something that's out there, for example, if I'm trying to reach into the Navy, they got a PEO digital. So this is Program Executive Office. That'd be an ideal place that I would want to get into as a SharePoint company. So I would go follow all of those people. I would follow that company's site. I'd watch for any of them communicating anything on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn will push that to me so that I can then engage. It takes 15 minutes a day, but I can engage with it. I can give it a thumbs up if I like it. Hey, this is cool. Thanks for sharing. And only share on or engage on stuff really that is related to what you do. Don't do it for every single thing somebody posts, because sometimes they post things that are unrelated and you engage because you think that's selling. It's not. You want to be known for your core competency. So if they post something related to what you sell, then you want to be able to get in there and give it a thumbs up. Or you can comment. And this is one of my favorite things to do, right? If somebody's posting an interesting piece of information, for all of you IT companies who are supporting DoD, the DoD CIO is on LinkedIn every weekend. And every weekend he's posting something interesting. Sometimes it's personal and I could care less, because I got to, if I was going to care about personal, I'd go talk to my wife, my kids, my family, and my friends. But sometimes he posts his thoughts about leadership and some of these other things related to IT, et cetera. Well, he's right there. He's the #1 IT guy in the Department of Defense, and he's engaged on LinkedIn. So this is a great time, if you've got insight to engage him, to be able to comment, say, hey, I really like this part and blah, 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 right? I don't really engage him much because I don't sell IT to him. But that might be something you can do. And there are many, many people out there. Certainly you can find 20 or 100 people that you follow. And in the course of that activity, people will begin to see you because you're engaging with somebody else's content. You're out there contributing your insight, your subject matter expertise. And if you're a salesperson who's less more of the technical expert, just make sure you're bringing that to the attention of the people in your company who can help you write a response, or maybe they can get engaged. And then the last way you can do this in social selling is post your own content. If I use SharePoint as an example, I would be posting SharePoint tips once a day. Right now, I do that, right? I want to reach the small business community, you, and I want to reach the federal agency personnel who are interested in reaching the small business community. So those two worlds are the ones I want to reach. So the content I post is completely related to those two audiences. For you, if you're trying to sell SharePoint, for example, then sharing a tip a day, you would begin to find the federal agency buyers are the ones who are watching that. It could be tips like, top 3 things to watch out for on a SharePoint migration. What should you think about first when getting ready to build a new SharePoint app? How to use this tool, how to use this feature. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it has value, people will appreciate it. And that's social selling, right? That's engaging out there. And if you want to be visible to the federal buyers in 2023, be engaged with them out there. So actually put be engaged into the chat if you believe that engaging with your customer by responding to sources sought or engaging on LinkedIn, if you see that will increase your visibility, put be engaged into the chat. So we covered 3 things, and I just want you to track on them that, if you want to be visible to the federal buyers as you move into 2023 and 2024, right? The 3 key points you really want to pay attention to being visible to the federal buyers and teammates are be findable, be attractive, and be engaged. If you do these 3 things, buyers will begin to find you and want to work with you. Teammates will want to put you on their team. If you found value in today's training, do me a favor, become a sustaining member of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. You can do that on our website. If you're a company that's looking to advance to the next level, you already got some traction in the government space and you want to go to the next level, consider my 90-day BD Accelerator workshop. Just reach out to me on LinkedIn and we can chat. And then remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.